I had planned an elaborate and lavish proposal for our 2-year anniversary, but my girlfriend cheated on me. The moment she kissed her childhood friend, Derek, was captured from every angle by a drone. I decided to break up with her, but she thought I was just throwing a tantrum. She even said she'd give me a chance, asking me to apologize to Derek. Later, she came begging for me to save her family's business. I chuckled, then said one thing, not my problem. What's going on? Pete shouted, raising his phone. Marcus, you need to see this. The blood in my body froze to ice when I saw what was on his screen. A few minutes ago, my girlfriend, Caroline, who had just left me, was now kissing her childhood friend, Derek. For tonight's proposal, I had flown several drones around the amusement park to capture the perfect moment. But instead, these drones became a live-streaming tool to catch my girlfriend cheating on me. My face went blank, and a sharp pain shot through my chest. The first time I felt as if I were falling into an ice-cold abyss. Today was the 2nd anniversary of Caroline and I being together. I had planned every detail of the day 2 months in advance. We were supposed to meet at 4 p.m., but Caroline made me wait for an hour before finally showing up. Marcus, tell me today's activity is just at the amusement park? She looked at me, her expression full of disappointment since I had nothing in my hands. I rubbed my hands together, trying to remember all the special arrangements I had planned, and smiled confidently, saying, of course not. I am sure you love it. Caroline ran her fingers through her perfect hair, stepping ahead in her high heels. She was radiant, lively, and the most beautiful woman at her company. I fell for her at first sight, and after chasing her for a long time, we finally got together. She always told me to work hard, save up, buy a house and a car, and then we'd talk about marriage. I was grateful she had never looked down on me for being poor. But today, that would all change. I was no longer the broke guy who could only afford a 1-bedroom apartment. My father had been impressed with my performance at the branch office and decided to promote me to officially take over the family business. Today, he also lifted the financial restrictions he had placed on me. So, on such an important day, I had arranged a proposal to share my happiness with Caroline. This amusement park is so boring. Derek and I have been here so many times, Caroline pouted, unwilling to go in. Derek was her childhood friend, and they were very close. Over the 2 years I'd been with Caroline, I had seen Derek many times. To Caroline, Derek was special. Whenever he called, no matter the time or place, she would drop everything and rush to him, even if it meant leaving me, her real boyfriend, behind. I glanced at my watch. The time for the park's lights and fireworks show hadn't arrived yet, so I could only patiently coax her, come on, just play with me for a bit. I've never been here before. I had grown up in a strict household, with no time for fun or play, so I had never really enjoyed an amusement park as a kid. She frowned. You've never been to an amusement park? I awkwardly scratched my head and smiled. The park is pretty empty today, she said, looking around. She turned to me as I stood in line. The tourist in front of me chuckled and, taking advantage of Caroline not paying attention, winked at me. To make tonight's proposal perfect, I had rented out the entire amusement park. So now, the only people wandering around were friends and family who had heard about my big gesture and came to help set up, celebrate, and, no doubt, watch the drama unfold. I kicked the guy in front of me subtly and shrugged. Trying to play it cool. Maybe there's something else going on here. Caroline chimed in, Derek did mention that there'd be a fireworks show at 7 p.m. We should be able to see it from here. I knew that already. It was my idea. After 2 rides, I glanced at the time, and seeing we were getting close to the scheduled moment, I gently tugged her in the direction of the spot I'd prepared. At that moment, her phone rang. Without hesitation, she answered it. Caroline, I am heartbroken. Derek's slightly tipsy voice came through the receiver. Caroline's face immediately changed. Where are you? A chill ran through me. A bad feeling settled in my chest. The next thing I knew, she was putting the tickets back in my hand, signaling for me to stay put, and started walking away. I grabbed her arm from behind. There's still a surprise you haven't seen. Please, go. My voice trembled, almost pleading with her. Caroline didn't notice. She had already gotten Derek's address and hung up, swatting my hand away. I told you. Derek is really important to me. Her expression was stern as she repeated herself. She had said many times before, if anything was going to happen between us, we'd already be together. It's not like it's my turn. But I always knew. Caroline had always kept Derek in her heart. Derek was the man she could never have. Unfortunately, Derek was a jerk. The women in his life had never stopped coming and going. Caroline was just there, not in the position she wanted. But today's our anniversary, and I have a surprise. Caroline, angry now, pushed past me. He's heartbroken. It was always like this. With her, I was always second to Derek. This time, I didn't want to back down. Then let me finish the surprise, and after that, I'll go with you to find him, okay? Once tonight was over, she would be my fiancée. By then, she will definitely be able to face up to my position in her heart and put me first. No, you being unreasonable. She stormed off, heels clicking on the pavement, not even glancing back. Because of Derek's word boring, she left me, who was in a daze with a high fever. And went to find Derek. She had once dragged me 5 miles just to collect childhood street food for Derek, all because he was feeling nostalgic. Marcus, I hate to say it, but it's pretty clear your girlfriend doesn't care much about you. Pete, the guy who had winked at me earlier, appeared next to me, throwing his arm around my shoulder. I squeezed the ticket in my hand, trying to steady my thoughts, and called Caroline again. Caroline, will you marry me? My lips were trembling. I am not as poor as you think. I've already prepared a house for us, Caroline. I can't do this anymore. I am tired. Derek's voice came through the phone loud and clear. There was a crackling sound before the call abruptly ended. She didn't even give me an answer. Derek's south location was very close to the amusement park. By coincidence, the drones I had sent up captured the scene of him, slightly tipsy, kissing Caroline. Pete, quick on the draw, saved the video. I had always known Caroline had a special kind of affection for Derek. But I believed that, since she agreed to be my girlfriend, she had decided to let go of those feelings. However, everything that happened tonight shattered that illusion. From the very beginning, Caroline had always treated me as a backup, a convenient fallback whenever she wanted to take care of Derek. At work, she never mentioned our relationship to anyone, even going out of her way to remind me to keep my distance from her. Whenever I talked about our future, she would subtly change the subject. Even when we ran into her family or friends, she referred to me simply as a colleague. Pete slapped me on the back, trying to change the subject. What about the fireworks? Everyone's still waiting for your cue. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, pulling myself together before typing in the group chat, the fireworks will go off as planned. I'll buy everyone drinks, and we partying until we drop tonight. In the chaotic bar, I raised my glass and stood on the stage to make my announcement. I've broken up with Caroline. From now on, we done. No more favors for her company, no more looking after her business for me. The dance floor paused for just a moment before the noise erupted again. Yeah, without her, the world kept spinning. The sun still rose, who really can live without who? Pete grabbed the mic and cheered, Marcus is back on the market. Let's give him a warm welcome. I downed my drink and danced into the crowd. My phone rang repeatedly, but I didn't pick up. After a night of reckless celebration, I was naturally late to work the next day. The transfer order from the headquarters hadn't come through yet, so I was still working at my desk. Marcus, why are you late? Why didn't you answer my calls last night? Today's the meeting with the Quantum Nexus Group project team. You didn't forget, did you? Just as I sat down, Caroline slammed a file onto my desk. I didn't look up, continuing to type out my work transfer checklist. Work transfer? Are you quitting? She looked shocked when she saw the contents of the screen. I gave her a distracted response. I am about to be transferred to a superior company and my work will be handed over to new people. What are you doing now? She furrowed her brow. You seriously going to propose to me like this? She gave me a dismissive once-over, then sneered. Lowering her voice. That so-called wedding house you prepared for us, let me guess, it's just a one-bedroom apartment, right? So, she had heard everything from the phone call last night. Wake up, okay? Stop dreaming about falling into a pot of gold. She slapped the folder in her hand. The person the client sent this time is Derek. You better go apologize to him. He waited for you for an hour. If he didn't cancel the project, that's already showing you some respect. Could he really do this? A cold laugh bubbled up inside me. Seeing I remained unmoved, her face darkened. And her voice grew sharp. Isn't it just me standing you up? I'll make it up to you with another date today. I leaned back in my chair, raising an eyebrow. Make it up for what? She lowered her voice again, looking around to make sure no one overheard. Our anniversary. You wanted to celebrate, didn't you? Oh, and where's my gift? Didn't you have a surprise for me? She extended her hand toward me. I reached into my pocket and, to her expectant eyes, pulled out my phone. You got a new phone? She furrowed her brow again. Her tone sour. Didn't you say you were going to get me a new phone? Why do you get one for yourself first? I want a new one. I don't want your old phone. After work, you go buy me one. She started picking at me, speaking in a demanding, condescending tone. I couldn't help but sneer. I was utterly disappointed in her. How had I not noticed before that this is how she always treated me? Had love truly blinded me? I tapped my phone, playing a video right in front of her eyes. I watched, almost with satisfaction, as her eyes went from wide to shocked. Then to a simmering fury. Where did this video come from? She grabbed my phone from my hand. Congratulations, ex-girlfriend, you finally got what you wanted. I smirked, sarcasm lacing my voice. No. Her eyes flickered with panic for the first time. He was drunk, just drunk. Nothing happened between us. The last frame of the video showed her in Derek's arms, getting into a cab. The cab's license plate was clearly visible. Last night, at the bar. I received a photo of that cab at their final destination, the hotel they stayed at. Don't overthink this. I just took him home. Before I could react, she deleted the video. Marcus, stop being so petty. Derek and I are just childhood friends, nothing more, like you think. I tilted my head and watched her perform, suddenly feeling utterly uninterested. I spent 2 whole years liking a woman like this. Looks like you still haven't been converted to a full-time employee. You better work on that, I said. Taking the phone back from her hand. I still have the backup of the video if you want it. The drones caught it all clearly, and it's beautiful too. Might as well keep it for the memories. I pushed the folder she left on my desk aside and turned back to continue typing. Her face flushed with a mixture of red and white, and for a moment, she was at a loss for words. She held back for a while before shoving me again. No matter what, you were late to the project meeting this morning. You have to go apologize to Derek. Who the hell does he think he is, telling me to apologize? I couldn't take it anymore and snapped back at her. You. Caroline was stunned. This was the first time she'd seen me speak to her so bluntly. Because I am your client. Derek's voice suddenly echoed from behind me. Don't worry, Mr. Derek, a staff member like him definitely deserves punishment. I'll handle it. I turned around to find Derek standing behind me, looking every bit the polished predator he was. Next to him stood my manager, Henry, who had never liked me and was now smiling ingratiatingly. Mr. Henry, I stood up and greeted him politely. Before Henry could respond, Derek's voice boomed, full of arrogance. 1 hour of waiting, and you still manage to apologize? The attention of my colleagues was immediately drawn by his loud tone, some even standing up from their desks to watch the drama unfold. I sighed and casually flipped open the folder Caroline was holding, pointing to the project team list. Excuse me, which line or column on this item has my name on it? This project has nothing to do with me from start to finish. I have no reason to attend this so-called project meeting. At this, murmurs erupted around the room. So it's Caroline holding a grudge. What's Caroline trying to do? My colleagues whispered among themselves. Caroline's face turned pale with anger. I called you last night to let you know, Derek wants you to be the point of contact for his project. Oh, but I guess there was no official notification, then I must decline. Perhaps it was my indifferent attitude that triggered Derek's client authority. He pointed a finger at me and began to curse. You poor bastard, and you still picky about work? You should just accept what's given to you. Or I'll refuse to cooperate with your company. Henry's expression changed at the mention of Quantum Nexus Group, and I could sense the tension in the air. Derek represented Quantum Nexus Group, one of the top companies in the industry. To be a part of the Quantum Nexus Group supplier team, to collaborate with them, was something many companies would kill for. This was a brag-worthy addition to anyone's resume, and Henry clearly wasn't going to let such an opportunity slip by. Of course. Mr. Derek, don't worry, I'll have Marcus apologize immediately. Henry snarled. His face contorted with urgency. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. This project had already been negotiated by the headquarters with Quantum Nexus Group. The branch company was just given the project to boost its own performance numbers. A small project manager like Derek had no right to meddle in the details of this cooperation. Whoever's project it is should be responsible for it. I didn't know this project would fall apart without me, I said, raising an eyebrow in suspicion. Derek and I never saw eye to eye. Why was he so insistent on dragging me into this? I started to feel something was off, wondering if there was some kind of ulterior motive at play. I kept my expression neutral and, using the excuse of having unfinished project work, grabbed the handover materials and left the office. Henry, furious, nearly smashed my computer on my desk as he raged. The transfer order hadn't come through yet, and since this involved a major company collaboration, I felt the need to get to the bottom of things. Caroline, seeing that I wasn't giving her any face, actually followed me all the way to the parking garage. Don't think that by doing this I'll change my opinion of you, Caroline snapped, clearly furious. I'll give you one last chance. If you stop going against Derek, I'll forgive you, and we can still be together, she added. I almost burst out laughing at what I had just heard, bending over with amusement. When I finished laughing, I coldly replied, Miss Caroline, just what position are you in to be saying such ridiculous things? You don't need to care what position I am in, as long as you cooperate with Derek, there's plenty of benefit in it for you, she implied. Hinting that they could make a lot of money off this project together. And besides, if my family can use this opportunity to get close to Quantum Nexus Group, I'll speak highly of you to my parents. For the first time, I felt a deep sense of disgust towards her, realizing just how opportunistic and petty she truly was. I am not interested in illegal or unethical behavior, and I've already broken up with you, I said flatly. And please, move out of the way. You're blocking my car. I pushed past her and got into my car without a second thought. Caroline's eyes widened in shock. Since when did you become so superficial? Renting a luxury car now? I didn't answer. I just gave her a dismissive look and drove off in the luxury car. In the rearview mirror, I saw her throwing one of her shoes at my car in frustration. The truth is, corruption among suppliers in project engineering is common, but their blatant attempts to drag me into their mess and make me take the fall was downright despicable. Moreover, Derek's job at Quantum Nexus Group? That was all my doing. Back then, Derek had just left his previous company and was left hanging by his new one. Caroline was upset about it and vented to me. Seeing her so downcast, I felt bad for her. Thinking that helping her friend was essentially helping myself, I called my father, Neil Morgan, and asked him to find a spot for Derek. My father, being cautious, contacted his old friend, Mr. Miller, and got Derek placed at Quantum Nexus Group. Derek was so smug about it, flaunting the fact that he had landed a job at a big company. Not realizing that the only reason he had the job was because I made it happen for him. I sent a quick text to Pete, tell your brother Ben I am going to catch a rat for him. Pete knew about the tension between Derek and me, so he took matters into his own hands. He went straight to his family's company and managed to get the project files Derek had handled, even from under Ben's watch. Ben thought I was turning over a new leaf. He nearly tried to shove me back into the company to work like a dog for him. Pete laughed. Pete had always been the spoiled troublemaker. He had a natural talent for partying and indulging in the good life, but business? That was something he had zero interest in. Still, this time, he took a real risk, all to help me get the information I needed. I was genuinely grateful. The files are here. What's your next move? Pete asked, leaning over and peeking at the papers. I flipped through the documents, comparing details from both companies. It didn't take long for the discrepancies to jump out at me. They're setting me up. They want me to take the fall for this mess because they can't hide the truth much longer. I pointed at several sets of data. Tell Ben to put the project on hold. Pete's eyes lit up. Alright, let's see what you're gonna do next. A few days later, I got a call from Henry after he heard the project was paused. He wasted no time blasting me. I don't know if you aware, but because of your disrespect toward Mr. Derek, Quantum Nexus Group is putting the project on hold and pulling their investment. His roar echoed in my ear, practically vibrating through the phone. I pulled it away from my ear, wincing at the volume. If this project fails, you can pack up and leave. Henry hung up before I had a chance to say anything. The words, "who exactly caused the project delay," were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back. Just as expected. Caroline's message came through soon after. "We got a meeting with the Quantum Nexus Group team this afternoon. Derek will be there too. You need to apologize and smooth things over." Pete howled. "Caroline wants you to apologize again?" "No way. They think they can just sweep this under the rug, but we're not letting them." I gave him a playful smack on the head before I deleted Caroline's contact. At 2 p.m., I showed up on time for the meeting, with Pete, who insisted on tagging along for the fun, by my side. The moment Henry saw Pete lounging in his usual careless manner, he immediately tried to throw him out. But Pete didn't pay him any mind, casually propping his feet up on the chair and leaning back with all the swagger of a spoiled rich kid. "I heard you want my buddy here to apologize." "I am just here to see how this goes down," Pete said, his defiant posture instantly putting the room on edge. Especially after they noticed Pete's head-to-toe, in-your-face designer labels, no one could quite figure out his background. Caroline and Derek exchanged glances before Caroline couldn't help but ask, "Who are you?" I placed the files I had prepared on the table and smiled. "Maybe you should focus on your own business first." Henry was furious. "Marcus, what's the meaning of this? You bring in an unrelated person to disrupt a company meeting? Do you have any respect for your superiors or for this company at all?" I calmly opened my laptop, connected a USB drive, and clicked play on the video. "We're here because we care about the company," I said coolly, "and we need to have a serious talk." On the screen, Henry's disgusting acts of sexual harassment were laid bare, with clear footage showing him exploiting his position to harass female employees for years. Many women had been too scared to speak out, while a few brave ones who resisted were forced out by shady tactics, driven to resign. I had gathered their testimonies and the video evidence to expose him and seek justice for them. "You slandering me?" Henry's face turned bright red with rage, but there was no shame in his bloated expression. "I know Henry doesn't like this," I said with a smirk. "After all, he has his own complaints about company leadership." I clicked the mouse. And another recording filled the room. "Those old fools, it's just because they were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. If they came to work with me, they wouldn't even be worthy of holding my shoes. Once I am rich, I'll give each of them $100 bill just to wipe my shoes." At this point, Mr. George, the branch office owner, was also at the meeting, having been summoned by Quantum Nexus Group. His face turned as black as a pot when he heard those rebellious words. "No, that's not what I said," Henry stammered. His face drained of color. "This is just a malicious edit from Marcus. Don't believe any of it. He's had it out for me for a long time. He's been trying to take my position. It's him, he's plotting something." As Henry's shameful actions were exposed, he lost all composure and started to panic, screaming in disbelief. "Oh. That's just an audio clip. Should I show everyone the video too?" I raised an eyebrow, clicking to bring up the file. "The rest is even more disturbing, Henry. Are you sure you want to see it?" I gave him a mocking smile, realizing his career was over. Henry collapsed in defeat, no longer able to maintain his arrogant posture. Derek and Caroline stared at me as if I were a complete stranger, sizing me up from head to toe. "You," Caroline hesitated, clearly struggling to find the right words. Seeing that Henry was completely out of the picture, Derek turned to Mr. George and made his move. "Since Henry's out, I'd like Marcus to take full responsibility for this project." He hadn't given up on trying to bring me into the fold. Before George could speak, Pete interrupted with a sharp question. "Hey, what's your deal? You always want to hand this project over to Marcus, what's that about? You and Marcus aren't exactly best buddies, more like enemies. Why does it have to be Marcus running the show? Sounds like you've got some dirty thoughts hidden away." I couldn't hold it in and let out a small laugh. Derek's face turned red with rage, and he pointed at Pete, shouting, Who the hell are you to speak in our internal project meeting? Pete revealed his identity, and it was enough to silence Derek, leaving him visibly shaken. Seeing the moment was right. I projected the slides I.D. spent nights putting together, piling up all the project details onto the big screen. There, clearly displayed, were all the projects Derek had handled since joining Quantum Nexus Group. Next to each project were numbers, money Derek had embezzled from each of them. Derek's face drained of color, but the last shreds of his composure still held. "Marcus, what's this about?" he demanded, his voice shaky. I smiled softly, knowing it was my time to strike. "Derek, you're the second person today to ask me that," I said. Clicking through the slides. "The first person who asked? Well, they've already been escorted out by security, and they're probably at the police station by now." The slides stopped on the pages showing his fraudulent dealings. "Are you ready?" I flashed him a wicked grin. Seeing how things were spiraling, Caroline quickly called for a pause and dragged me into the corner. "Derek just wants to make big money with you, why would you betray him like this?" Caroline's face was full of reproach. "We're supposed to make money together, right? Plus, with his help. There's nothing wrong with putting my own company in the supplier circle," she said, her voice thick with naivete. I couldn't believe how stupid she sounded. She seriously thought that money should flow into the pockets of people like them, people with greedy hearts. "Caroline, you can follow Derek into the fire, I have no issue with that. But don't try to push me into the flames, only to bury me as the scapegoat when it all burns down." Ignoring her attempts to stop me, I started exposing all of Derek's tricks. Derek had been exploiting audit loopholes, passing project subcontracts to smaller suppliers, and pocketing the difference. The products from these orders were only guaranteed to be decent for the first few batches, but the quality was inevitably compromised in the long run. He also used Quantum Nexus Group's name to charge small suppliers a so-called circle introduction fee, in reality, just another way for him to take kickbacks and act like a true snake oil salesman. When the product quality eventually failed, he would need someone to take the fall. And that was where I came in. He wanted me on the project team so I'd sign off on the project documents. That way, he could pin the responsibility for quality control on me. "Derek, you've lost all sense of decency," I said, lifting my chin and gesturing to Pete. "As for your evidence, Quantum Nexus Group has already submitted everything to the police. I think this Christmas, you'll be spending it behind bars." Derek's mouth opened and closed. But he couldn't find a single defense. My evidence was too thorough for him to deny. "Let me tell you one more thing. The project suspension was always about collecting evidence against you. If you backed off sooner, we might not have rushed to hand you over to the authorities." I tossed a few wire transfer receipts onto the table. "But during this suspension period, you continued to force the smaller suppliers to pay and rush product batches. You handed us the evidence on a silver platter, and we won't show you any mercy." Just then, there was a knock on the door. Caroline rushed to open it, only to find a pair of uniformed police officers standing in the doorway. "Mr. Derek, please come with us." The lead officer added, "From this moment on, all the computers and devices used by Derek in your company will be sealed. Our network tech team will be in touch with you shortly." With a face drained of color, Derek was escorted out of the branch office by the police. George, the branch manager, was stunned into silence, unable to process what had just happened. He stammered, "Wait, Marcus, if you keep playing these games, how will my company even survive?" Pete finally took his legs off the desk, stood up, and walked over to George, giving him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "Don't worry, Marcus is one of us." Pete pulled a document from his pocket, a company-stamped order. "Take a good look," Pete said, "this is a transfer order. From now on, Marcus is the boss of the headquarters." I shook my head, letting out a helpless laugh. Pete jabbed me with his finger. "What do you think? Should I make 10 or so copies of this transfer order and hand one out to every single person in the branch? Including the cleaning lady? Maybe I should even add a big photo of your face so they all know who you really are." I shoved him playfully. "Get out of here." In our laughter, we had managed to take down 2 major enemies with ease. Just as we were packing up and preparing to find somewhere to celebrate, Caroline, still in shock, stood in front of me. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she seemed reluctant to accept the situation. "Why didn't you tell me? You lied and said you were poor." Her accusing tone made me laugh in disbelief. "In fact, I had never once told her the words, "I am poor." When I first arrived at the branch office, my father had only arranged for me to rent a small one-bedroom apartment. He also froze my credit cards and made it clear that I had to live off my salary. I'd been used to spending freely, so suddenly being constrained like that, not knowing how to budget, led to my salary being spent as soon as it arrived. "I told you I wasn't poor. I just said it was temporary," I said with a hint of sadness. I often told her that. But she probably thought I was just making empty promises. "I always prepared gifts for you during every holiday, as much as I could afford," I continued, a touch of hurt in my voice. "But your gifts, those boxes you never opened, did you ever notice what was inside?" Caroline's lips trembled, unsure of how to respond. She probably thought I could never afford to give her anything meaningful, so she never paid attention to the gifts I gave her. They were just tossed aside, forgotten. "All your heart was with Derek," I said, finally understanding everything. "To you. I was just a backup. Someone you could rely on while you waited for Derek. Now, you can be with Derek." The colleagues who had been quietly watching the scene suddenly erupted in conversation. "What? Marcus and Caroline? When did that happen? Sounds like they've been together for quite a while." I couldn't be bothered to argue with Caroline any longer, so I dragged Pete out of the branch office. Pete, ever the gossip, was curious about how I planned to get back at Caroline. I shrugged. "I don't need to do anything special. Just knowing she'll live the rest of her life in regret is enough for her to bear. If someone doesn't appreciate my intentions, no matter how much I care for them, I won't ever look back." Derek was arrested for embezzlement, and due to the massive sums involved, he faced a prison sentence of over 3 years. As for Caroline, she was immediately fired from the branch office because of her involvement. She eventually found out that, on the anniversary, I had rented out an entire amusement park to plan a grand proposal. With thick skin, she came to me again. At that point, her family business was in turmoil due to Derek's case. Without the support of my friends, I was certain that the company's financial chain would collapse soon and vanish under the weight of the economic storm. "Marcus, I know you still love me. I saw the fireworks that night. They were beautiful, with our names in the sky. I was wrong. Please, give me a chance. I'll treat you well this time. Save my company. My parents have worked their whole lives for this. And it's just a small business. You could fix it with a snap of your fingers. Please don't abandon me, Marcus. For the sake of the 2 years we were together, forgive me, won't you?" Caroline, for the first time, cried in front of me, her face wet with tears. Her voice, full of sorrow, would have made anyone feel sympathy. But sadly, I had no feelings left for her. When a man's heart turns cold, there's no room for reconciliation. The fireworks that night were indeed beautiful. But at that moment, she was kissing Derek. Not me. I'd once heard that couples who kiss under fireworks are destined for happiness forever. That was my wish, once upon a time. But it no longer mattered. I pulled her hand away from my shirt and walked past her, leaving only one final sentence: "It has nothing to do with me."